Dr. Sharon Curtis. Do you know how long I've known this lady?
I just wanna talk with my brothers. Is that too much to ask? Might as well look sharp as I'm doing it too. Trims and talk. Trims and talk. Trims and talk. I wanna know.
Water. I need to drink the water out
don't
to-
dribble though.
No, but I can't drink the water. I need a cup. I can't
Why
drink
not?
that from... Well, because it's not professional, sweetie.
I mean, me.
You're just going to drink like that? No, I don't. It's not. I don't want that going out. People see me drinking. I have to
Drinking
go, I have
water.
to go over there.
Like, glug, 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 glug.
I have to go water. Water. That's not good.
Yeah.
Giving it real, guys.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
start properly, let me know.
Let me start it for you then.
Okay.
Welcome, Dr. Sharon Curtis, for coming on to Trims and Talks. You know, we're really, really pleased. And I know Lungani was just about to say how long he's been wanting you to come on the show.
Really?
Yes,
He has.
yes,
He's
yes,
been on
yes.
at me. We've got to get Sharon. We've
Oh
got
my
to get
God,
Sharon.
fantastic.
All right there. And I said, Sharon.
Yeah.
I said, Sharon who?
And you
A
would
joke I'm making.
way behind me, you would.
No, but actually, I mean, we're really pleased to have you here. And,
Thank
know,
you.
with all the work you've done in the, we've just been talking downstairs. It's 29 years you've been at Ellesmere.
29 years
29.
tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a big
That is a big
period
change,
of time, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Yeah. So, given your educational background, I'm actually really interested to be here with you today, just so that some of the things we can talk about will be about education and the trials and
Indeed.
tribulations, the challenges, the opportunities, and all the other things which go with a long career in education. I've stolen your
Absolutely.
thunder, haven't I?
Oh, no. No thunder was...
No thunder can be stolen over
no
here.
thunder can be stolen.
Yeah.
No. I was saying, do you know what I was thinking about? Recently, I was thinking, how long I've known Sharon. I think the first time I met you must have been in 92. 92.
Quite
Yeah.
possibly, because I started in 96 at
Yeah.
Ellesmere.
Yeah, 92 at Fez Hill. Fez Hill
yeah.
School. I remember actually, you know how I remember? It's because it was literally after Carl Casey's wedding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was after Carl Casey's wedding. And there had been some shenanigans at Carl Casey's wedding.
Wow, I'm not
Which
sure.
would not-
Is this for airing?
No,
This
no,
is
no.
a
This is a family show.
Do you know what I mean? Is this for airing? There's been shenanigans.
No, I'm kidding.
Back
I'm
in
not
the
sure,
days,
I was just
I
trying
don't
to
know how
kind of...
you guys are running this, but yeah.
Yeah.
I have no clue
I
to this.
remember, actually, I had to come and run a workshop. And some of the kids I remember from the school now are like moms and
Well, it's a
dads
good
and
while
stuff.
ago.
You
You're
know what I'm
talking-
saying? Talking like a good 30...
30 years ago. So
yeah,
if they
nearly
were
30.
10 and 11-year-olds.
Yeah,
they're
over
now
30 years.
40 years of age.
Yeah, some
They
of
are
them.
indeed.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's actually one of the things which in education is amazing, isn't it? Which
is, it
you
is.
sort of like, I mean, you've been dealing with early years, so you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about people who were 5, 6, 7, 8. Now in that 30-odd year career, they're now going to be mid-30s, late 30s with their own 5, 6-year-old children.
This is true.
Yeah.
So within my role at Ellesmere Children's Centre, I have a deputy who was one of our students at school,
Oh, yes, yeah.
who was in Lungana, used to do the drumming and dance workshops,
Yeah.
and she was party to that, and now she has 2 children. So we've got that lovely kind of intergenerational feel that you was asking part and parcel about what keeps you in jobs. This is the kind of nice part where you actually see generations of children, but sort of like maintaining that nice bit
Yeah.
That's it, isn't
in
it?
terms of their development.
Can I ask you there, again, going back to that education sort of career, I mean, I did 40 years in education. What got you into education?
Well, I'm not primarily, my first role is not education. My first role was nursing. But in nursing, I looked after infectious babies. And that became quite a love of mine in terms of child development. I had failure to thrive babies, children that had gastroenteritis, which I think is on a decrease. It doesn't seem to be with the prevalence that when I started nursing. I went on from that to have my own children, or my first child at that time. And then I wanted something that fitted in. Obviously, being a parent, you fit in your own kind of needs or childcare and all the rest of it. And so I ended up doing that with looking at what positions, and I was really fascinated. I think linking the two, the nursing and having your own children, was really very much about having a career that fitted with that. And so therefore my passion and my love came of early years. I started really in between the two bits of early years. I've also done youth work, so working with young people, but very much passionate about children's development and giving them that early start.
But what has been, I mean, so actually, besides that, what kind of keeps you motivated about that thing? Because I know, considering the various changing terrains of education and youth work and children, there's so many rules just coming at the people who are either dealing with the children at a young age. What keeps you going back though?
Going back, I don't think I've left in going back. There's a natural feel, there's a natural pull. I think in anything that you enjoy, you've got to have a real passion, commitment. And I just think for our communities, for black and brown communities, is a real pull about getting children to enjoy learning. And to be able, and what I like it as well is about quality and excellence, and about ensuring that our children have access to those spaces and opportunities.
So was that a big driving force then for you to, in your career, going from nursing, youth work, and the majority of your career into education, that you felt there was a need?
An absolute need. Obviously, I've worked within very much a multicultural disadvantaged areas, and you know how that feels and the expectations. So for me, I actually went back to work at the school that I was at, which had many horrors. I was at First Hill School.
You were there?
Yeah, I was a student there. And there were many things that happened in that school where I kind of felt I didn't really enjoy education. I didn't enjoy my primary years, and I didn't particularly enjoy my secondary education. You know, there was lots of things that happened there that I think have always driven me to say to my children, you know, if anything happened, you need to tell me because I need to deal with that.
So would you say you realised your potential at school, or was that something which came later on?
No, it was something that came later on. I don't know in terms of potential. You kind of look back, and I think that I look back now, and I think there's a real like advocate part of me about like sometimes that voice that comes out that says, no, I don't think this is right. I think that's always been there for me as an early child, but I didn't recognise that. So it's taken the time to kind of move forward and then reflect on that, and then be able to say, yeah, you know what, that there's always been that bit of a fire in your belly. So towards doing things.
So actually coming up, because I think many of us sometimes we have those people we looked up to before we went into the thing we went into. I mean, like who sort of kind of encouraged you to follow the path that you followed, or it was just by happenstance? Or
the path that I followed, it's difficult. My mum worked in hospital, and I don't think it was a natural path. I think it was a path that there was nothing else. And so the career advisor, I remembered saying, and this is like part rebellion, being brought up with two brothers, I said I wanted to be a car mechanic. Yeah. And I remembered writing a letter, and this man writing back and saying, no, we don't take women. We've only got one washroom or something, and people it was really bizarre, but we're back in the times of the days.
I know, and
we're back in the times of the days. I was like, what do you mean you've only got one washroom? And I thought, like, ooh.
Well, you can't use that.
Very seedy. No. And I was really, as I said, I got two brothers, and I think I was a bit more of a tomboyish. I always loved me dungarees and climbing trees and all the rest of it. But there was that moment where, when you look back, the career officer, it was very defining, wasn't it? So I think like little black girls were either going to be hairdressers or they were always going to be nurses and caring. And there I kind of got into the nursing bit. But there was a sense of me that I wanted to have a position that was a vocation, which in some ways I feel now that people don't look at vocations or that vocational aspect of a job, everything, well, it's just a job, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there is more to life than that. There is about making those differences. But I did have very romantic notions. I did read Mills and Boons and often thought that I'd be there and the surgeon would go, nurse, mop my brow. And I thought, oh, this, but I never got to do the brow mopping. I did get to the theatre.
As we said, it's a family show.
It's a it is, isn't it? Yes, yes.
Yeah, but
and
you know,
really
back, you know, you said there about your school experience that, you know, parts of it, large parts of it, I think I was hearing, which, you know, didn't feel right for you. How was that sort of left an imprint in terms of your own sort of like vocation, in sense of what you want for the children who you basically are responsible for in terms of their time in school? Because it is just the one time, isn't it? You know, they have that one time at that particular phase in their life, and you want to make it as good as it can be for them.
Yes. I think that early years and early development is very important. And obviously I have very faint memory because my mum and dad both went out to work and we was left in a nursery, and I have faint memories of we was just always put to sleep. I can always remember just the bed, and I remembered you got a blanket, and on my blanket it was a house, a little house, and that's as much as I can tell you. I'd like to hope that our children have a little bit more than this to be able to share. But I'm saying the reflection. When you walk through somewhere, we really feel as though there's no reflection of any other culture, any other person, any other difference. You don't get that. And I've kind of been driven towards looking at transcultural ways of working. And by that, just looking at the overlaps between different cultures and about that representation and what it means within a family. And many services seem to be very much absent of this. Very much absent of this.
Because it's always, there's nothing as, it's like when you get to Ellesmere Children's Centre, there's this like sense of peace. It's like, for a moment you forget you're in Sheffield, you know what I'm saying? You know,
nice.
no, because like it's serene and there's this sense of everybody knows what they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's good leadership then.
No, but that's the thing. No.
That, my friend, is excellent leadership.
Excellent leadership, because that doesn't happen over by chance.
No. It's funny that you should say that because, and I once got in a taxi and there was a taxi driver and he said, we got to, and I said, where do you work? And I said, Ellesmere Children's Centre. And he said, do you know what? He said, it's an absolutely fantastic nursery and I live in that area, but my wife wanted the children, and this happens sometimes, to go across to kind of like the Ellesmere Road because we think, it's going to be better. So he said he went across to Ellesmere Road and he was othered. He was made to feel as though people didn't address him, they didn't speak to him. It had a really cold feel to it. And he said to his wife, I don't like this. And one of his friends said, why don't you try Ellesmere Children's Centre? And he said, as soon as you walk through the door, like you, there's this absolute welcoming feel. He said people were asking me, are you all right? And he said, I wanted my children there. He said, because it felt welcoming, And he said, and the lovely thing he said, but the staff, he said, that is not a coincidence. No. Somebody has worked to pick that level of staff in order for that to work in the way that it does. And I don't disagree.
And when you then talked about transcultural, I mean, at Ellesmere, what's the scale of that transcultural as such?
If we go back over the level of 29 years, I would say immense. We do a cultural audit, so we know that the last one, I think we've got 26 different languages in terms of families. So it's really difficult because there's this, so as I see it, in Western society, we will look at people's characteristics and we will make judgments. So in sitting here, depending on even your skin tone, people say, "Oh, that African man," and automatically there's a thought, "Oh, that Chinese man, or that Asian lady." There's only a few different cultures. So then, when I say to you, we've got families that could be Bangladeshi and Italian, where you wouldn't think it because nobody's taken the time to do the audit to look at that, and we know that through our door, that's what we get.
Yeah.
So you might get the ones where Indian and Pakistani, where there are things where the two cultures shouldn't really be together, but they are together, and you understand that clash, or you understand the difficulties for those two, where one out of the two couples has had to maybe give up part of their culture. So there's a lot of dynamics that happen between those doors. When you start to dig a little bit more deeply, you're going to unearth.
It sounds like you have to really get to know those individuals.
Yes,
and you were
you
saying
do.
there before about opening a door and the welcoming. You know, you can only get that if you get to know, and you're curious, you're interested, because often, you know, you get a sense that people are not interested.
Yes. And I think that's very true. I think that even within schools, whether they do cultural audits, I'm not saying all schools, some schools, I'd have to say hopefully welcome that kind of work and will actually do that, and making sure that children and those families feel welcome into that space. But that's not always the norm. And one of the things that we want to do is to ensure that not only that we do it, but we do it very well. Yeah.
So I mean, like, so we met in about 92. From 92, then suddenly you were at Ellesmere. What was the transition from being at Fairs Hill to Ellesmere?
I think my role within Fairs Hill School was about community liaison. And at that time I worked as part of a team of people through SUMIS, the Sheffield United Multicultural Educational Services. And
The old Springfield School.
yes, indeed, all that. But it was a good initiative, and it's something I think that needs to come back, because the reflections for children now of seeing black and brown people within Sheffield in particularly high educational positions is lacking and minimalist, to say the least.
I find...
It's all right for you, you're retired.
No, but being retired is part of the issue. Do you think that those roles which you talked about before, about, you know, roles for back in the day, bright black girl goes into nursing, some other bright people might go into teaching there, and you had in that period in the 90s, for instance, SUMES, there was quite a large number of us. I remember going to the Thursday lectures and seeing the black head teacher, Carlton, I can't remember his name, from Birmingham, who was there. And he said something which always stayed with me, which is, he said, you know, you're in a room there, I'm a head teacher there, and I think to myself, there's a third there who are brighter than me, a third who we're about the same level, and a third who are less bright. And I thought, oh, I quite like that. That puts me in a nice position. But I went to hear a black head teacher talk, and I'm thinking nowadays, these two professions, nursing and education, I wonder if they have fewer black people joining them, and if that is the case, why is that the case?
Are you talking about now?
Now,
Yeah,
yes.
I probably think so. So within Sheffield, and obviously I was part of the Race Equality Commission, and that was worryingly unearthed and showed that we haven't got lots of black head teachers at this moment in time. I think back when SUMIS, I still don't think we had that many.
We didn't have that many.
So I don't know whether.
Have we ever had a time?
Have we ever
had a time where you felt as if there was a sort of like a pipeline of young people? This is my own belief now. Young people, they're in school and they're saying to themselves, you know, the job I want to do when I leave school is to go into nursing. I want to go into education.
Teaching. Yeah.
No. We're total different times, so then we're going to switch again, aren't we? Because as much as people love the benefits of social media, I think the downfall of that is that people have lost aspiration. So the aspiration is more about you being an influencer, whatever that means. I'm not too certain what that is, but people think being an influencer.
Yeah.
Yes, we know that a professional footballer, fantastic. But again, there's about the limitations with that you want that person to be sensible enough to be having the level of money and investing it sensibly.
Yes.
So there's all that learning that comes with a position like that, and great aspirations for young black men, but young black women as in being a party person or an influencer, or it's very much hair, it's very much nails. There is a lack of aspiration, I feel. And that's overall, I think, for young people. So the kind of nursing and teaching, does that feel excitement for...
Yeah.
Do you know, like,
Yes.
being an educator and how you get that excitement to say, you're going to have, as I feel, this next generation, and we want to put them onto that next step, and we want to catapult them into being these next scientists, inventors, or whatever. It's like giving children that
Because
aspiration.
that's real influence, isn't it? I mean, there, as a head teacher, there you are as a head teacher there, you've got, you know, these young people, young children, and you're helping them to get started in that really meaningful way.
But my question then becomes, okay, so remember when, like, the question I asked initially, like, who did you see? I mean, it was more around, like, who did you see around the community that you sort of like thought, you know what, I want to follow in their steps, therefore, because they are a teacher or because they are doing something that has a wider impact. You know what I'm saying?
I totally understand what you're saying, but I'm not saying that I saw somebody who gave me that inspiration. But as you're talking, I think about people around at the time like Dorothy Dixon Barrow.
Oh, yes.
And she was very inspirational, and I loved her kind of like... She didn't care.
I know, I didn't.
You know what I mean? She really didn't care.
She had that forthright.
She just had that real thing about her where
Yeah.
she'd say something and that was it.
Yeah.
That's how it went.
Yeah.
That was how it was going to go.
And yet people like Isadora Aiken also up at...
Possibly, yeah. I think so. But I'm thinking like Dorothy Dixon,
Oh, yeah, that's
Bertie
way
Lee
before, yeah.
Henry.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
As she was head teacher,
Yes,
weren't
she
she?
was, yeah.
Acres Hill.
Yeah, wasn't she the first black head
Yeah.
teacher in the city?
So Bertie Lee Henry, I think we'd have to say,
Yeah.
do you know what? All power to
Yeah.
her. Because it can't have been easy at that time. But they're not women that I think, oh, they were inspirational and I want to follow in their footsteps like that. It's mainly when I look at those women, I think at that time they did really well in the field of
But
what they were doing through adversity.
I mean, one of the things which we've had a discussion with on Trims and Talks is about, you know, sometimes how taking a leadership role. You know, people have said about I've been in this position and maybe they've not necessarily sought the next position. Now, taking the leadership is a very visible role, isn't it? And you know,
It is.
and that carries with it a whole host of issues, isn't it? Is it something you'd say? What would you say to those young black people in whatever work they're doing? Is it worthwhile going for it, for the leadership?
Yes. Yes.
Why?
Without hesitation. Because there's so few. And I just think if you've got, and I'd love to be able to do that, we're looking at the moment to see whether we can do a leadership package with another young woman in Manchester who's delivered it about supporting young black women. And I think different, I guess, to men, but there's still an absence for both genders in regards to that, however people define themselves. But I'm saying that there's a real absence. And yes, I would, because I think that it takes great spirit to be able to, it takes a lot of energy to keep going. Do you know what I mean? But I think if you're determined enough, then why not? And making those differences. We live in a very Western society that's been dominated for so long with white men in charge of various sectors. Sheffield is no different in regards to that wider society. And, you know, it's time for change. And it's been a long time for change. Even I feel at the kind of end of my leadership dinosaur journey.
Yeah, but
That
with it
why
co-
not?
but
Why
with-
shouldn't somebody take over?
But with it, doesn't it come as well, though, that if, you put your head above the parapet as such, and then there you are, very visible, and that means the arrows can be slung at you from every quarter, from the local authority, from the teaching associations, from parents, and they're all
And from
want a
your
piece of you,
own.
don't they?
Yes.
And from your own community.
Yes.
Yes, because at the end of the day, I send my child to that school. You're the head teacher. If you tell, don't do what, no, don't do, but let's say, for instance, you had to sanction a child and they didn't like it, you're just the head teacher. At the end of the day, I don't like what you've decided.
It's so my other thing is my PhD was Black women leaders in early years education, and I have to tell you that one of the things that I found there was about that Black women have a very different style of leadership, and one that works. So they have an affinity, and the women that I interviewed had an affinity drawn to their actual community when they had their children, and I do it. I think, well, what would I want for my son? And if I was here, what would I want in terms of my children? Would I want da-da-da-da-da or da-da-da? And I work on that premise. So I work on the premise, well, if it's not good enough for me, it's not good enough for anybody. So any of those children through there, I'd like to believe that I install that quality and that education, because people deserve to have that.
Yeah.
So, I also found that as Black women leaders, there's something that I wrote about that's called cultural insight, and you can't buy that. So having that relevant cultural insight, which means another topic that I talk about in there is about our sense of self. And that sense of self is about what drives you from being little. What was the affirmations that your parents gave you and said to you when you was at home? How was you driven towards? And we was like, and then it becomes that you was almost leaders in your own home. People came to you, they asked for advice, you were organised or said, oh, let's do this, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. And I feel a sense of that too. So I'm saying the cultural insight is not necessarily possessed. So you look at areas of deprivation, most of those areas of deprivation, Manchester, Leeds, London, will be headed up by Black women leaders. Because it demands a different drive to understand that those people who come in through the door that are absolutely tired, racialised, traumatized, intergenerational trauma, you understand that. You understand that, and you open a space for that to come through your door. As you said, you head through the parapet, you get everything. But somehow you have to navigate in doing that. A Western white woman who's heading up doesn't have to have a head above the parapet. And actually, I've known within the area of burn grief leaders that have been in there and put a note on the door and put do not disturb, because they don't want any staff coming to them to ask them anything. And that's common practice that goes on throughout. So I know another school where the parents were not encouraged to come into the yard. They had to drop the children at the gate. It's all different styles of leadership, however that works, but it means the two things you don't want the parents involved in the school or the running. So leadership and who drives, that's important. But also from a racial lens is also what is the knowledge of the person that's leading that, which is, a question that I did ask.
So but considering all this stuff you have to deal with, how do you maintain a level of mental wellness?
Mental wellness. Oh gosh. Interesting question. Exercise. So there's a few things. I'm in a running club, so I do have to de-stress. So I've been in a running club for quite a number of years, and I go running, I do the gym, I read, but my other secret component, which is not great, I watch absolute rubbish on telly just to empty my head so I don't have to think about anything. So what people don't like, we all have our little guilty pleasures. Yes, I'll not say Married at First Sight. Any of that. Any of the books.
No, you
Married
want
at
to
First Sight.
No, this is
I'm all there. There. You heard it here first on the podcast.
weird thing. This is like I was listening to
I know you're gonna say you do too. I know. I can
no,
feel it.
I was listening to
Comrade.
Trevor to Trevor Noah's What Now podcast, and they were there's a lady who's the co-host, and she says it's one of her guilty pleasures.
Exactly.
Married at First Sight.
Yeah. You know,
But
that's
you'll
kind
find that people, when it's like that, you'll find something that's just, it doesn't mean anything. But on I say it doesn't mean anything. So the other aspect of me, because obviously I'm a relate counsellor, psychodynamically trained, and part of my thing, which my friends always say, why can't you just watch it? Is that whole notion. I'm very keen on relationships and how they function and why they function and why do people behave like this and why do they react to things like that. So when I say that I am like chilling, I'm like, yeah, this is interesting.
So get this then.
Yeah.
You're head teacher. You do a PhD whilst you're a head teacher.
Yep.
You do this psychodynamics training as well.
I did that before my masters.
Before your masters as well there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of...
there's a lot.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
Who is she? This superwoman.
Yeah,
No, that's the thing.
So, I mean, you clearly have got energy, you've got drive. So is that, going back to your PhD there, about this energy and drive there, what's driving that?
That's the thing.
Because, I mean, just listening to you, you just sort of popped it in there, and I do this as well. And I'm thinking, well...
No, because
it's enough for me to get to the shops.
No. To add to your point is like, for every time I see Sharon, there's this buzz about what she's doing. I mean...
the running, this.
Yes, and also like even
that
like
relieves.
No, and like just from walking from downstairs to upstairs to Emosi, to the even to the
giants upstairs.
To the giants upstairs. That again, like there's an energy going
I have to
upstairs.
say, when we were waiting for you, and it was 1:30. You arrived at 1:30.
I know. I like what does that.
What can I say?
I
should have been earlier, actually.
I like what does that.
If you want a job done, ask a busy person.
That's it.
Yes.
No.
Thank
It's
you.
true.
Yes.
So where does the energy come from? I mean, I know you do all this kind of stuff. How do you maintain that level of energy?
I don't know, really. Things come to my mind, and I think, maybe it's an ancestral thing. I don't know. There's a spiritual bit that I talk about when I wrote my thesis as well. There's a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that sense of purpose, I think, gives you the drive. And I'm not saying that every day. I find that I do have an absolute love of it. But I tell you what I don't love is all the bureaucracy and the things that come in between there. All the things about being under-resourced, all the things about people not doing the jobs and the positions that they should do in supporting our families, all the time that drains me having to write letters to people to ask, why is it that these children or families are not getting the support?
You've always got the sense of purpose, because that's the driver, isn't it?
It is, but it's draining.
It is draining, yeah.
Because even a few weeks ago, we managed to go to the Freubel Trust, put on some training, and it brought us all back to play. And it was fantastic. They had 2 workshops where we just had turned out thinking, oh, God. I must admit, I went with a kind of, but it was fantastic. Yeah. And we just sat playing with clay, and then we did a woodwork workshop. And do you know, I was energised. Yeah. I was absolutely energised to say, we sometimes forget. And that is nothing to do with the people. That's to do with all that rubbish that ends up on my desk where I go, do you know what? If I didn't have all that and I could just sit and play with my children, that would mean everything. Yeah. I mean, my kids, there's sometimes, like I said, that I was floored by one of the children, because on top of working transculturally and working through a counselling lens, we work with the children to be able to equip them to be able to talk about their feelings and their emotions. And one of the children said to me when I was walking through, Sharon, how are you feeling today? And I nearly cried. Because I thought nobody ever asked me.
Yeah.
But this little child was looking up at me going, how you feeling? And I went, oh, I was like, who are they talking to?
So-
I said, you.
So how are you feeling then?
How are you feeling?
I'm fine. This is so lovely to be asked. I'm feeling thirsty, but I can't drink my drink here. Like
Why
this.
not just drink
I
your
want a
water?
cup.
Yeah. Well, but that's interesting about, but it's interesting it's nice to be asked. It's a bit like taking a compliment. So many
Yeah,
of
it's
us learn
not.
not to take a compliment, so someone says
Yeah.
something good to you and you go, oh, you backed it off. When actually,
I do it.
somehow you've got to actually, I feel, accept it because it's said in good faith and it can feed, we all need feeding from time to time, don't we?
Yes.
The weird thing about that whole thing of being asked, how are you feeling? I remember an older lady, we just finished church. This older lady, like when you're shaking hands and people are moving out and, you do that thing where people say, how you doing?
May God be with you.
Yeah,
And
you're
also
like,
with
it's like, how you doing? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm okay. The template. And she stopped. She says, how you doing? I could feel, actually, after she left, I went and bawled and bawled and bawled. You know what I'm saying? Simply because, I think I have often, I'm always very open about, I think we, especially for us as men, we don't really emote very well. And also, I think in our day-to-day running of stuff, we don't really converse in a way that we see each other beyond the just, just the...
No, because I was saying that, but I mean, I don't know what
But
trims
we're-
and... Is this the barber thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
But what
so
I'm saying...
my thing, question back to you,
Go on.
is I think there's a bravado with black men.
Yes.
And I think you do a lot of things in terms of joking. This was one of the things when I was thinking about our fathers group. There's a heightened way, and I think in terms of that barrier, but it's also protection. And you laugh and joke about it, but I was asking, because I think for some of our parents and some of the men there, was about how we create a space where we stop the laughing and we get to the serious. And I'm not sure yet. I'm going to work with
So
some
you
other
have a
colleagues.
fathers group then?
We've got a fathers group, yeah.
Because I'm
We go
Saturday
to...
has a man talk.
Yeah, man
Fate
talk.
has a men's group as well. And I think that point you just made there about when you stop the laughing, I'm not saying stop laughing because actually there's lots of laughter.
No,
in
there's
it.
a lot of laughter.
A lot of laughter. You have to have a
yeah.
lot of laughter. But
You
actually,
do. You do.
running throughout it all is trust. Trying to build trust up between a group of men who can then be vulnerable with one another. Because in that vulnerability is where, hurt is, the sort of like the frustration, the sadness, the sort of like, the confusion, which we all have in life. But actually, if I can find a way to share it with someone, then it might help me along the way because, we have to build some resilience. We need to build some coping mechanisms. We need to build some skills to actually challenge what's in front of us because that's another difficult thing, isn't it? You're faced with difficulties and I actually need to challenge the man as such and say, this isn't right.
I mean, that's why, for me, why I've always been I was excited, actually, when I met you after the initial meeting you, and you were talking about, the programs that you run at Ellesmere around, Emosi and all transcultural kind of work and stuff. Because for me, I think I've always had this question in the back of my mind, like, early years, at what point do we teach our children to be emotionally articulate and also to start, kind of equipping them, especially for those who are black and brown, to equip them for dealing with a hostile environment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
I think very early on. I mean, in the whole time, as I said, 29 years tomorrow that I've been there, I've never dealt with preschool children. It's a handful of issues that have happened to do with children experiencing some sort of racism. And by that, there have been maybe children's interaction with staff And it's really, really odd, really, because there's some children that have been scared to be when somebody's had a scarf, but it's an interpreted wrong ideal to think, oh, it's because of the culture or whatever. It will be associated to a particular thing that's happened with that child, or to see some children, if a black male comes into the setting, I mean, the children love that. They're very, very different. But for some, that for whatever their individual reasons are, they can sometimes react in a negative way. But you're very much right about equipping children with the tools. It's very much about embracing that difference, but celebrating it and being happy to be. And we do things where we compare all our skin colours, and they get to do the skin colours, but about we love why our skin's brown, you know, and why it is the way that it is. And I know one of the therapists that was there, she shared her skin colour and she got freckles, and the kids were like, why have you got all those on your hands? But we should have that. I mean, we said it the other day, what happened to that level of innocence? Don't forget that all those children go to households. So my other thing is like looking at what's brought into the household, what kind of language is used in that household, what kinds of likes and dislikes do they pick up about certain cultures, because that's where it comes from. But why have we got in Sheffield where we're not dealing with issues of race within school? I'm really concerned about, are the teachers in school equipped to deal with it? Do we talk about it more openly, which is another thing that I'd say Emosi can offer with training, is that should be imperative.
Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and never miss an episode. Until next time, keep those conversations going and the clippers buzzing.
I just feel as if they're like the rabbit, and yet, going back to what you just said there about being able to see, you know, not to be dictated to, but to see colour, that everyone in that classroom, in that school there, that they are of worth. And they come they come with their own individual self, but also part of something else as well. And we're going to try and form something there. But so with your staff then, back to your staff there, as head teacher then, I mean, and staffing's a big issue, isn't it? Trying to get the right staff is always a big one there. So for you, how have you felt being a black woman has actually sort of like how it's been seen then? You know, do you feel as if you've been seen and people have acted towards you differently because, you know, you don't fit the normal image of early years primary school type head teacher, which is a sort of like white middle-aged woman?
Yeah, it totally is. So over many years, I've had extraordinary experiences really to parents. There's some parents that absolutely love it in abundance, that celebrate it, that thank me for it. And even if we've been at loggerheads, there's been the times where, you know, I think about parents and one, you know, parents that have then we've come to an agreement and they end up bringing you flowers. You know, we've had parents that are difficult that end up bringing you gifts, and you're like, wow, this is all different. To the point of I'm thinking about, children. For children, I don't think it's an issue that children receive you. I think that people within other positions somehow think you've not got a voice. And very much even the thing about working hard and getting the title of doctor. I know that I've been on a meeting in Sheffield and somebody said, why has she got doctor? She's not a doctor. And then somebody said, yes, she has. She's done it. And they're all on camera doing it while we're there in front of my staff. And I'm like, this is really bad.
It is
really bad. But, you know, like that indignation in some ways that you think, I've worked really hard. And I did my PhD. My new title is Without AI. So I've done it old-fashioned.
You read books?
I read books. I did referencing. I did it all. So I'm like Superwoman without AI. It's like, that's super indeed. Thank you.
That is definitely
you know, that's super. So,
yeah.
But you get that, and you get the kind of you don't get that recognition. So you were saying, I can remember where my deputies, they've been black, Asian and white over the years. But when I've had the white deputy and people have come in, I'd been on holiday once and this guy came to talk about something, resources or something he'd come to sell. So my deputy had gone to the door, walked down, and he's talking to her. So she comes past me I'm in the staff room, and she went, "Oh, this is Sharon," and he went, "Oh yeah, hiya," and he didn't even look at hiya, and then he walked with her in the office and was talking, and then he said to her, I was sitting there, "You've been on holiday, haven't you?" And she went, "No, it's not me, it's Sharon. You've just walked past her, she's in there." Ooh. So my man now has to come back, doesn't he?
Yeah.
On the walk of shame.
The walk of shame.
And then he comes to sit down to, needless to say, like, am I really having your resources when you've been so blatantly rude? So these sort of things. But this sort of thing has happened in my study. And one of the head teachers there said she was in her own school and she was upstairs and the police came on site for some issue. So she came down, as she was passing through, and she said, "Can I help you?" And they said, "No, we don't need you. We're looking for the head teacher." So she said she nearly walked off and said, "Well, let me know when you find her." And she just walked off. She's the head teacher, but obviously they weren't expecting her to be. So this whole notion of like, well, what does leadership look like? Does, you know, and I've had people come in before, like, we had children on work experience, and one of the teachers, this is a pretty kitchen. What do you need to do to get this then? And what have you done to... And talking like this in a way that you're thinking like, this is not quite appropriate. Where else would you do this or behaving? But as you get older and you get more wiser, you get to a point where you say, actually, this is not okay. Not that it ever was okay, but as people keep saying, pick your battles. But there's so many, isn't there? But eventually you have to kind of rein your head and say, you know, you need to kind of stop now. Because it's not great. People work very hard to get to the positions that they are, and they do things
to stay in the position because it's
and
actually
to stay in the position.
It's so hard. I mean,
Seriously.
I've got sort of like a lot of so much respect for the job you do in terms of being a leader. Because I mean, I went to this deputy position there, and one of the reasons why I think I asked you the question about leadership is that sense of, did I balk at taking the next step? And I think, I'm answering the question, I did.
It's a solo role, isn't it? You have to walk it on your own.
And I think one of the problems then for people out there who might be in whatever profession is, I'm with you, I think people should take, if they feel it's right for them, they should take that next step and do that leadership. Because, you know, you see other leadership, people who believe it's their right, and you think, I'm every bit as good and better and more. The things
you find it's
there
better
and better. So why am I sort of like giving myself reasons not to? And justification now, it's going to be tough. Yeah, of course it's going to be tough. You know, but you and like, so I think. Do you feel then that how could we go about trying to get more people who are in that sort of position of, you know, thinking, I want to go for it, you know, in whatever.
Oh, you mean more DEI hires?
Well, I know, they would call it DEI because the last thing is DEI, because I think it's sort of like doing it by twice and three times.
I mean, where were you talking about? Sheffield?
I'm talking about let's take education as a whole, you know.
Right, I mean, you've got a big problem. You've got a massive problem in that it's very ingrained in terms of the systemic racism, both in universities, the local authority, and that, and it hasn't changed. We've got a race equality commission with all those recommendations, and barely there must be a few that have been really started, and a lot of that will be purely lip service. This bit about really wanting to make those changes, you make the changes. We know it's not going to come overnight. But you know that there are people there. Sheffield's got more people that have travelled out of Sheffield in order to do businesses, in order to get into higher academic positions rather than stay. And so then you've got that other bit where a lot of the positions, have you noticed that within hardly anybody's Sheffield, hardly anybody's born and bred Sheffield that's in that position. You're getting more people from the south, from London and other places coming to take in the role. that have no affinity. It doesn't mean anything to them. But they wasn't brought up here. I didn't go to school here.
So you think
I
they're
didn't,
just careerist?
Well, they
Oh,
could be
yeah.
careerists.
But you
They're
go back
very
to,
much
if you
careerists.
go back
It's
to,
careerist.
But it also it shapes the city in a different
yes,
way.
Yeah.
It shapes it in a different way where if the people that it actually affects have no voice, the people that are actually working here and going through the systems know that there's only going to be a ceiling and then that's it.
But
You
if
don't
you,
get
and
any
if you've got a
further.
situation where, I mean, I think the school population in Sheffield is like 35% black and brown, yet
It's a small population.
the teaching population is, I don't know what it is, that's got to be 5%. Yeah. And then you've got as head teachers, I only know 2, you. And
There's it sounds even worse. There's about 4.
4, all right.
Yeah. Well, there's a few more, but it's
One
sad.
secondary then.
Yes, we know the secondary.
We know
We're
the
part of our
secondary.
team,
Yes. So,
which is. But there were 2.
There were
You've
2
forgotten the
before.
other. Linda Joseph at Springfield.
at Springfield. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, so 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 there. There's somebody else. There's some up and coming new ones,
Yes.
but there's not very many. And actually, in some ways, it's about raising their spirit
Yeah.
to be. But it's not. There are not created safe spaces for people to be able to talk, articulate, or even other schools to draw from that learning. It all feels very. They work in silos.
Yes.
You know, not really creating those spaces, or there's not that openness. And as soon as you throw the word race on the table,
Oof.
how to empty a room in 3 easy stages. Race equality.
You can't.
It's like head to the door.
Anything and everything, but not that.
But not that.
No, you know, because as you're talking,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I wonder what her support network looks like.
I'd love to be part of a support network. So obviously, where I'm at in terms of looking at bits of retirement, I'd like to leave something in terms of having a network where people can get that support, don't feel isolated. When something happens and there's nowhere to be faced and everybody then scatters, there's not that support system
Because
that's
it can
put
be
in
lonely,
place.
can't it?
Very lonely. I mean, you have to create your own support, and that support is not. It's not somewhere like either working for the local authority that you think, oh, I'm going to get support in. That's not. It's not realistic. You either have to find other colleagues, and you know you don't have to find your other colleagues that are working in education. They could be working in anything. They understand what that feeling is. The level of tokenism. I write a section in my thesis called "The Lone Black Woman" because every space that I walked in, I was the lone black woman. So
You're talking
every
about-
single, and you'll know it.
Yeah.
You go to things and it's like you can get to a certain level, and then you walk in and you're like, "Where's the
And
black people?"
Some days you get
Hello?
caught out by it, where you're very familiar with it, but some days you just get caught out and you think, I am very much the lone black person here. And, you know, it's a sort of thing which, you know, again, back to your mental health, that it can sort of like just chip away again a bit more. There's a bigger chip chipped away on that occasion.
Damn. You know what? Because I've always, you know what? It's like I admire the work that you guys do. I mean, I do.
thank
No,
you.
I really do. I really do. Because I'm always so, having, you know, walked through the spaces that you guys work. I mean, Donald, I was lectured at the same college as Don. And having the opportunity to come and teach in your spaces and stuff, and now also trying to kind of document some of the work you do. I'm always, you know, kind of aware that, you know, there are more other things at play than just what we see. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of other battles that have to be fought outside to creating this space that sometimes will come and say, oh yeah, this is awesome, but we never really think of who are the people you draw from to make sure that the reality is there, because it must require a lot. Yeah.
It does require a lot. I mean, we've had, over the years, we've got a voluntary management committee. They take up some of the battling, but it does fit. And for some people, it gets too much. You know, like in that constantly, oh my God, will it ever stop?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's something else that comes, there's something else that comes. So, for instance, we occupied Ellesmere for 20 years. We couldn't get a proper leasing agreement from Sheffield City Council. We're not the only group. We know that there are other groups. We now own that building, but it doesn't come without worry. It doesn't come without the fact that we had to buy it. Given all the years that we'd invested, all the years that we'd managed to glean and get funding, we still wasn't supported in the way that we should have been, morally, really.
Yeah.
Given that where we are as well in an area of disadvantage, why morally are we having to do that? Why is it that people think... And the other thing that I don't like is that everything's personal. We want to talk as though we're all very professional in the way that we do things and whatever. And what I've noticed more within organisations, it's all very personal. It's about how well you get on with so-and-so. If you get on well, that person then thinks, oh, well, yes, that's fine. We'll you know, validate that. Life, unfortunately, we're not always going to... get on with everybody, support each other's personality. People are very quirky, they're very different. My thing is, irrespective of that, if you do your job well, I don't have to like you. I can respect you. I don't have to like you or things about you, but I will respect the things that you do. I went in one of my other jobs, there was a woman leader many years ago, but and the things that she did for the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, she fought tooth and nail. She got a very strange leadership way of working, which I didn't care for, but I respected her because the way that she took no rubbish and the way that she would do things to get the resources for her kids were admirable. And that's what I'm saying, that if we worked in a less personal and worked in a more professional, and if things were looked at rather than they're not, that it's very much postcode lottery and what things happen, even supporting green spaces like the green spaces that are next to Ellesmere, which we don't overly use because it's like it's not got no cameras and things in there. It's got dogs and things. We have to do a lot of risk assessment. People have put so much funding, but is it really that they're all, you know, like, yeah, we don't work together. We wasn't even brought in as part of the development of it. So it's that kind of thing that becomes very, very draining. And yet you'll get people that will come into the area, then representing the area, who've never even been there, and you're like, where are you from? It's incredible. But somehow, what that person's got to do, they fit within that whole in crowd. So if you're not in crowded, we know that we're othered. We're seen as the other. We're put very much as the other. In some situations that seem ridiculous to me. But because we would have, if you think what we've managed to achieve now, without all the lack of resources, the fighting for the building and that's what I said. If you leave us to do what we should do, we would be so much further on.
But the amount of effort which the whole school community has had to put in over the years is an incredible amount, isn't it? Over
Massive.
You know, and I'm not slighting anywhere else, but elsewhere they don't have to do that. That's the difference.
No.
That's energy.
Do you know?
I like the phrase which is you can't spend a pound twice, and things you having to spend so much energy.
I went, and I can give you an example. When I first started there, I went to a meeting, and the local authority was there with their nurseries. And we were just starting out, and I was like, my God, how are we going to... We had like £1,800. And she said, oh, sorry, I'm late. She said, but we've had all this paint delivered. I've had nowhere to put it, so we've had to pour it down the sink.
Oh.
That would be true. And I'm sat there thinking, oh, we're desperate. We're desperate for some resources. I can't believe that somebody could come and say such a thing. But to do these things, then you have, was it the Show Start ones where there were people, I think there was an article in the Star or something, they'd just emptied it and thrown all the stuff out in Escape, and people had gone past and seen all the new equipment in Escape. Things like that, it's morally not right, but what can you do? But like you said, people get it so easy that they then think it's okay to just throw it, rather than think, is there somebody, rather than even have said to the parents, you know what, we're going to be closing this, or we're doing, do you want to come? They throw it in escape.
I think it's also a cultural thing. I assume a culture. You initially you mentioned something about I think from an aspirational point of view, they seem to be more. You spoke about those education and nursing, those careers.
I tell you why I did, because we spoke to a number of nurses. I mean, obviously, a lot of black women my age, our age. I'm assuming we're not too far away there, Sharon.
It's obviously Langani that you're talking to.
Younger than me. Yeah. But anyway, but lots of women there, because my sister's a nurse, they did nursing. And they've done incredible careers. You know, a friend of my sister's is now a senior nurse practitioner, and she only answers to the consultant. Mm-hmm. You know, so she can do everything in terms of her practice there without any sort of say from anybody else. The only person she answers to is the consultant, and I think to myself, these incredibly fantastic careers, which we've not necessarily acknowledged loud enough, because there's expertise within the community, the careers which people have had in there's been incredible careers. I mean, even when we had, and it's actually, I'll tell you who prompted me, Sheila. When Sheila was there with the 1 in 4, and she only made a passing reference to some work she'd done with the consultant on haematology. Yeah. And in my head was there, a consultant haematology. And it's like the expertise in that. And yet, I think I don't think we've actually acknowledged it loud enough as a community.
So if somebody was to say, we asked this about some, why do we need Ellesmere Children's Centre?
Why do you not? No, of course. It's funny you should say that, because I went to an evaluation and impact workshop, and one of the questions that they asked is to evaluate your work by saying what would happen to the children if you wasn't there. And that's much more powerful, because in some senses, particularly the Emosi referrals, but some of the children that have come to us and the development that they've made has been quite astonishing. And you think as well that the children seeing their actual reflection, the workers that look like them, it makes a massive difference. And I know over the years we've had stories where our children have gone from us and just declined.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Because
there's a lot of evidence for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence.
Nationally,
they've gone into the others and not seen. And there was one of our staff, and she wore a hijab, and the little girl, the mum said she was crying for 6 weeks, and she kept asking where she was, and why isn't there anybody that looks like her? And she couldn't settle. And it's gone on. We've had children for 2-3 terms. They can't settle. We've had children brought back. I mean, there's a debate, isn't there, in terms of how early children enter the school system. And for whatever reason, they've changed it that after the 4th birthday, they can go. But children developmentally aren't ready for school. And schools aren't always conducive to where children's level of development in terms of their play, exploration, sensory. Some are moving in that direction.
Things like that, where you often get to sort of like a tension point, because often between for education,
play and education,
they don't really want that.
I know, but
they want something which is much tighter.
In saying that, it's proven that children play until they're 7 and then going into it's proven. So my friend's moved to Norway, and she absolutely loves it, and I'm hoping to get across to be with her, because she's saying that the pedagogy there is so different in the way that children learn, and they're outside. And she's saying she's been working in social grade. We'd be in safeguarding because they just put the babies out to sleep outside and they just went about the business. So, but that's what they used to do, isn't it? Yeah. And so she's saying the kids are out there and they're climbing up the tree. then there's no workers around there. We now, Ofsted come in, they want to close you down. But when you think about it, why? Trust and train is what we say. They don't have any. She's saying that so different. She said, but so invigorating. Yeah. So
I love what you've said about play, because there is nothing better than seeing children play.
Nothing better, yeah.
I mean, I was walking through Maresborough Park, which is where I live, the other day, and there was the local school, I think it's Maresborough Bank, and they were in the woods doing their forest school bit, and just the noise, that hubbub which children have.
That.
And
I like
they're
it.
just doing whatever they're doing there, and I was thinking, that is absolutely brilliant.
No, but that's it. I think more and more. I mean, let me tell you, I think certain things have to be put in place to safeguard everything. But I think sometimes it's like there's the element of play that sometimes I don't think this generation kind of play as much as we played. Cause we
Oh my God, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I said that the other day. So there's a writer, Sue Palmer, and she talks about children's toxic childhood, and it's all about the fact that we engage in children in all these computers, all this technology, and there's nothing about the outdoors and creativity.
No, that's
so
not.
even the other day, I raised the question about creativity when they were talking about AI.
Oh yes,
and saying that
yeah.
if children don't learn or don't are creative in the sense of doing creative writing or something, and they just think I can just put in 3 words and then I've got an essay. I don't understand what the value of that is, and I would think to shy away from that, but we've already taken elements of play where children think like where we would be conkers, marbles, rounders, tent making, running around, they're like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
Can I have your phone? I mean, I can't think of nothing. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate all that and the iPad, and then they're just sat there like zombies, lost into a world of the studies
and
that show
you see even with young ones like
they do it with our children. So there's some children that are collected, and as soon as they're collected, if they're in the pram, they put something in front of the pram. It's not my thing, and that I would be happy to say, please stop doing this. And if they need to be educated, and why can't people write things that make any sense? Like, what are the different plants that you see as you're travelling around in this? What are the different things that you can write or spell or do? I know that there's some of them, but all this other bit where it's got to be action and fast. So there's studies that show that there's a curvature that's coming towards children because they like that, aren't they?
Yeah.
So in looking at that, but also there's another study that's showing that they're wearing glasses more because their eyesight of the constantly being on the screen.
No, but that's the thing with many of us. We created the environment. I mean, we spoke about the whole thing about we are the ones as parents. We bought the children the gadgets that they use and stuff. And I think more so for convenience than anything else.
Yeah, but
it's for adult convenience.
And you can see why. I mean, for busy parents, I'm not just. I think it should be something else, but you can see how you can get into that as a busy parent, a busy mother. You collect your children. I've got this to do. I've got this on my mind. There, I can't do.
If we go back to our parents, are you telling me that the parents nowadays are more busy than our parents were?
No, I don't think they are.
And I say this because my mum at the time didn't have a washing machine, a microwave, the Hoover. I think it was one of those. That you
pushed. It didn't take much up, did it?
And then you had a brush and pan. I'm saying to you, literally, where's the busy?
Yeah. Okay. But if you go the other way, if you go back to our day, and I'm going to try and put it with today, which is our day. Your parents could say, "Go out and play." You go out and play for a while, and then you have to come back, etc. But you could go out and play on the street. And you could play out on the street because you had 2 cars on that road. Today, I mean, I don't know if you must have it where at school time there, the cars are all there. Which means even if I wanted to walk to school, I'm actually not going to because there's cars everywhere.
True.
No,
And
that is
when
the
I
point.
go collect my grandchildren, there's cars everywhere, and they're big, big cars.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking these cars are enormous.
Yeah, but
so-
that shouldn't stop children finding a space to play.
No, it shouldn't, and we should
No.
find a way, because I'm totally with you. I think play is so important there. And I was out walking yesterday with the Satma team.
Oh, yeah, the
Four of us were
Satma team, yeah.
walking, and it was a beautiful day, as we know. And I just kept thinking about, I just love it. What I would love to see is that every park in this city had people out playing. And
That's
you have
it.
people out
That's it.
playing there, particularly black and brown children out playing. Because if you can't be out playing on a day like yesterday, you're not going to be out playing ever, are you?
No.
No.
I think, like I throw the responsibility at those who make the sort of like policies for the city, because as much as we seem to plow money into roads and more roads and this kind of transportation and stuff, I think sometimes one day I think maybe some person somewhere will come to the realization that it's about creating the environment that's conducive for the little ones growing up. Because what world are we living for them? Somebody
Scary.
said something recently says the Windrush generation came and they built the infrastructure for us in terms of the housing and stuff, and the one center that's left now, those centers. But our generation haven't really. We sort of kind of grew in that environment, but we haven't really invested in that infrastructure. Because going to kind of closing with the podcast, because we have spoken about this thing about the support for Ellesmere, and I think sometimes our community forgets to support the things that benefit them, and I leave that responsibility to us. That what are we building now that will outlive us? Because
Well, there's a fantastic centre there, and it's community oriented.
Yes.
It belongs to the community, and obviously we still fight on a daily basis in terms of things and the resources and those and the staff are dedicated to that. They are absolutely dedicated. We're not the sort of 9 to 5, and they will put in those additional hours like we all will.
Well, I've heard it in just sitting with you today. I mean, it's been a pleasure.
No, it continues to be a pleasure.
A real pleasure. In fact, I nearly feel quite motivated to go back into it.
Well, we may create a space for you, Donald.
Create a space for Donald.
Let's create a space for
It
Donald.
could be like
I'm too far
Donald.
gone now.
Donald
Here's our
3.0. Yeah, Donald
Our
3.0.
fundraiser. You must come up. We've not seen
no,
you
but
for a
that's
while.
the thing.
Yeah?
I will be coming up.
No,
Let's
you-
go,
No, he hasn't.
We
You're right. I
definitely-
know. I love the way you looked at me. He hasn't.
Yes, no, because me, I
Always keep it real.
go there at any
does.
That's how I'll be up
opportunity,
there.
and I think if more of us, kind of frequented that space
Yeah.
and realize the potential.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's harnessing the many. I mean, again, I think one of the things which I've gained out of this podcast is a recognition of the wealth of expertise which is within the community.
Yes,
And what we've got to try and do is find a way in which we can actually recognise that, and secondly begin to share it a bit. And some of that there, as a sort of older person, is just simply a little bit like some experience. Yeah. But it's important for younger people. You talk there about there's like a new cadres, people in positions where they might be thinking about going the next step. Sometimes they just need a little bit of
That's
support
it.
to think. Someone say you can do it.
Absolutely.
'Cause that's all it needs sometimes.
Yeah. So when is the book coming?
Which book? Which book's this?
No, because this is the thing. As you rightly said, tomorrow is the 29th year. You've been
Tomorrow's the 29th.
29th year.
God willing,
and-
we'll do 30th anniversary next year.
And the point I'm trying to make it, like many of us, we are not documenting our journey to a point that it will benefit the it's creating that. And I'm also, Donald, I've mentioned this to Donald about, when are your guys' books coming?
I've answered it already, which is a no, because I think
never.
Never.
You said never?
Yes.
You're never going to write one?
Oh, no, I'm not a book person. I love reading books.
He's a voracious
I think
consumer of the literary
My
text.
answer to you is people can find their own way of making that testament, or whatever it might be there.
But we need the reference.
Yours might be a book. Yours might be... I don't know what yours would be.
I don't know. No, believe you me, I have no clue what mine is.
But it's right to somehow capture something.
Yeah. I think it is. It's relative.
To capture, I mean, I've really enjoyed talking with you today, because I've had to do quite a bit of reflecting on my own educational career, and it's just made me think about the joys of it, as well as the struggles. I mean, the pride which you've shown in what you've done is, it's quite inspirational. That pride in what, cause to be proud of what you've done is to make the self feel bigger and stronger there. And so I am very so inspired by you there.
No, but for me, I think I think there's a suspense in trying to figure out, what you're going to come up with next.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I've got enough with Emosi, so our new Transcultural Therapeutic Service, which is there for children aged 2 to 12, and very much about raising those issues that we've got, having children that are having, I don't say mental health because I think children are too little. What I do say is having difficulty with social and emotional development. And I think social and emotional development can also be with adults. This whole mental health labelling, there is a difference to mental health where even if you say, I feel a bit fed up today, it doesn't mean you've got depression, it just means you feel fed up for the day. This wording children pick up on and say, I'm sick of this, I'm fed up of that, I'm bored of this, I'm doing it. There's a lot of negative language that's used. But there are lots of children now that are struggling with the social and emotional development. And I cannot stress enough how important that is to deal with it at this age.
Yes.
Rather than waiting till later, where you will get a whole host of children that are on prescribed medication in a way that we don't need to have that prescribed medication. Again, when I go back about the games, I'm separating that all out, is a way that we communicate. How are couples communicating with each other? How do you communicate with your children? People are upstairs texting downstairs rather than talking. So how are we getting good relationships with children? How are children communicating between each other? They're doing all social media, sending nasty messages, sending this. Why are children not engaged in talking? So there's a space and a place for all these things, but I think it's important. And we've seen some real complex trauma coming through Emosi for children, real. And a lot of it is to do with uncontrolled anger.
Yeah.
And the power of that uncontrolled anger will lead to something that's not good, harm to parents, harm to innocent people, So I can't stress enough about how important it is for that work to really be done at a younger age. And that engagement, not just with the child, but with the parents as well.
I think that's a great place to end,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No,
Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
No, honestly,
thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and never miss an episode. Until next time, keep those conversations going and the clippers buzzing.